Okay, good evening, everyone. Chair would like to call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Lake Barrington. It is Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. It is 7:08 p.m. The clerk will please call the roll.
Okay, President Richardson.
Here.
Trustee Burke.
Here.
Trustee Hayes. Trustee Perkins.
Here.
Trustee Schaller.
Here by Zoom.
Thank you. Trustee Schallmoser.
Here.
Trustee Van Ryn.
Here.
I'd like you all to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Take your time, Karen. Good? We good?
We're good.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item 4 this evening is approval of the minutes from our meeting last month. Are there edits, questions, or comments on the minutes for the clerk? There being none, Chair would like a motion to approve agenda item 4A, minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting April 4, 2023. May I have a motion, please? By Trustee Schaller. May I have a second?
Second.
By Trustee Perkins. Thank you both. Clerk will please call the roll.
Okay. Trustee Schaller.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Trustee Perkins.
Yes.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Trustee Schallmoser.
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn.
Yes.
President Richardson.
Abstain. Chair would like unanimous consent that the record remain open for a period of 5 business days for purposes of any necessary technical and conforming amendments to the mission. Without objection, so ordered. Agenda item 5 this evening. It is with a heavy heart that we see Karen Dalton Lang leave us for happiness. But we are going to honor her next month with her resolution. And the other resolutions I know will be forthcoming. So we are going to table agenda item 5A for this evening. And I got your money. Thank you. Thank you. We have 2 proclamations tonight under the President's remarks. The first is recognizing the 100th centennial birthday of Ms. Belle Rossman, resident of Lake Barrington Woods. She is, for a number of us, well known because her daughter, Esther Shikoda, and son-in-law, John Shikoda, are dear friends of many of us in the larger overall Barrington community. And we are delighted. As you know, my father lived there and died at almost 99, and Lake Barrington Woods does a brilliant job of caring for those in later years. I would like to read the proclamation. Whereas Belle Rossman celebrated her 100th birthday on April 27, 2023, and whereas Belle Rossman was born and raised in Springfield, Illinois, her father was from Russia and her mother was from the United States, and she grew up in a household with 3 siblings and now calls Lake Barrington her home. And whereas Belle Rossman attended business college in Springfield, Illinois, and made her way to work as an office manager for the Massachusetts Mutual Agency in Nebraska. She has traveled to California, London, Paris, and Germany. Belle is an avid basketball fan and loves the Chicago Bulls and watching college football. Her favorite composer is Strauss. And whereas Belle was happily married to her husband, Kenneth Katz, and together they raised 7 children, and she is a grandmother to 7 grandchildren. And she is most proud of the family she raised. Whereas the President and the Board of Trustees of the Village of Lake Barrington desire to acknowledge Belle Rossman and celebrate her 100 years of fond memories, great experiences in life. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the President and the Board of Trustees of the Village of Lake Barrington, Lake County, Illinois, that the Village of Lake Barrington expresses our deep appreciation to Belle Rossman for making Lake Barrington her home. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
By Trustee Van Ryn. May I have a second?
Second.
By Trustee Schalmoser, thank you. Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Van Ryn.
Yes.
Trustee Schalmoser.
Yes.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Trustee Perkins.
Yes.
Trustee Schaller.
Yes.
President Richardson.
Yes, and did you get Trustee Schaller? Could you hear?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, for some reason, John, I can hear you faintly, but can you hear us okay, John?
I can hear you okay.
Great, okay, super. The next agenda, item 5C, is another proclamation concerning Jewish American Heritage Month. Before I read the proclamation, it's very fitting that the veterans of LBS are here for this. My dad, rest his soul, flew relief supplies into liberated concentration camps at the end of the war. I was raised as a bitter anti-fascist, a bitter anti-communist, and a bitter opponent of anti-Semitism because my daddy saw it up close. And so when I was approached through the U.S. Conference of Mayors, along with 15 other mayors around the country, we are all passing resolutions like this, and it's because of the sacrifice of veterans in the World War II generation that the evils of fascism were stomped out in Europe. And so you are their partners, their successors, and I commend you for your service, as well as commend them in absentia for their service. Proclamation, Jewish American Heritage Month. Whereas Jewish immigrants to America, ever since their first arrival to our shores in the 16th century, have played a central role in the creation, growth, freedom, prosperity, and strength of the United States of America. Whereas the biblical and contemporary history of the Jewish people and the enduring values of the Jewish faith were vital sources of inspiration for the founding of the United States, the Civil Rights Movement, America's global leadership in the cause for freedom, Americans' commitment to social justice, and many of our country's most central tenets. And whereas following the rebirth of Zionism and the miraculous return of the Jewish people to the Jewish homeland, the United States was the first country in the world to recognize the State of Israel in 1948, and over the years has developed a deep friendship and unbreakable alliance with the State of Israel based on shared values and mutual interests. And whereas for 42 years, every president of the United States has declared a period of time for celebrating the contributions to the United States of the Jewish community's history, heritage, and culture. And since 2006, the month of May has been presidentially declared to be Jewish American Heritage Month, pursuant to a bipartisan resolution of Congress. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the President and the Board of Trustees of the Village of Lake Barrington, Lake County, Illinois, that the Village of Lake Barrington encourages all residents to take time to understand mental health through education and recognize that we need to take care of ourselves while we take care of each other. Before I call the question, I want to see if anybody else would like to comment on the resolution. Then Chair would like a motion to approve resolution of to approve the proclamation. Excuse me, to approve the proclamation. May I have a motion, please? By Trustee Perkins, may I have a second? Second. By Trustee Schalmoser. Thank you both. Clerk will please call the roll.
Okay. Trustee Perkins.
Yes.
Trustee Schalmoser.
Yes.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Trustee Schaller.
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn.
Yes.
President Richardson.
Yes, thank you. We have some guests here tonight. Under Agenda Item 6, opportunities for the public to address the board. We see our dear friend and former colleague, Trustee Thompson, and his comrades from the Veterans of LBS. Gentlemen, we are always delighted to have you here, and so we welcome you to the podium.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Jim Thompson and I are here tonight to talk to you about some activities that we have planned and are coming soon at the Lake Barrington Shores Veterans Association. The first thing I want to talk about is our 5K run walk, which will be held, this is the second annual, on the 28th of May. And Jim Thompson is here wearing his medal that he won last year.
He's the man.
No. This is a finisher medal. Finisher.
Oh, okay. Well, even finishing is good.
And those who won get even more. Bling. So sign up.
Full disclosure, I didn't finish, I didn't do anything, therefore I don't have a medal. But this year we've added a walk feature to this for those who would like to walk the 5K, and 5K is a little more than 3 miles. So, and it's walking through the Lake Barrington Shores community, starting over near Zaza's Restaurant and finishing here right at Zaza's Restaurant. That'll be on the 28th, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. We'd like to have a real patriotic theme involved in that because it is Memorial Day weekend. On the 29th,
And one of the important things about the 5K that we do is that we have award recipients of the money that we get from there. And for this year, the Gold Star Survivors Program and Path to Hope on Crystal Lake are going to be the recipients of this year's race.
okay, and that's specifically dedicated to the race and the race results, the financial results of that. But everything we do, we're a fundraising organization, and everything we do goes back to veterans in need in our community here. The community would be Lake County, McHenry County, or really any person that we hear of that's in need. Last month, Karen Dalton Lang sent me an email, actually a couple of weeks ago, sent me an email, and talked in that email about a resident who came in and spoke to you last month about his concern, or the general concern for suicide in the veterans community. And I responded to Karen to say that not only is it, we are aware of that, but it's a primary concern of ours. And I won't go into it too much because I'm sure that person covered it in depth. But it is a serious, serious problem, not only here in the Midwest, but nationwide. And I just heard the other day, 29 veterans every day are committing suicide, which is, we should be doing something about it. And there are specific organizations that we help fund that are specifically pointed toward suicide prevention or dealing with the families of the survivors in case of the suicide, which is the other part of the suicide issue. Memorial Day ceremony on the 29th. We'll start with some music and all the preliminary before the 12 o'clock start. Our keynote speaker will be Marine Sergeant Major Melissa Hawkins. Now, for everyone who doesn't know, first of all, Marines, of course, are special. I say that as a Navy guy, but I have to say that because my brother was in the Marines. But a Marine Sergeant Major is the highest non-commissioned officer rank in the Marine Corps. And it is a huge thing for us to have Sergeant Major Hawkins come and speak to us. We're looking forward to that. And she does a lot of public speaking on behalf of the Marine Corps, so this will be very, very interesting and enlightening to all of us. July 1st, we have Rolling Thunder. We had Rolling Thunder community about 5 years ago. The head of the local chapter came in to see us 5 years ago, and his first statement was, everybody thinks Rolling Thunder is just a bunch of guys that like to drive motorcycles. And we all nodded yes, but that is correct. He said, however, we have a mission, and their mission is the recovery of POWs, missing in action, and those that are missing in action and recovering the remains of those. And just recently, Jim and I had lunch with this person, just recently he was very enthusiastic about a recent accomplishment that he had with the recovered remains from the Korean War. So, and it's an issue that rises and falls with the enthusiasm across the country, I suppose. But for them, it's a mission, an everyday mission. to them. So we want to support them, and I think people will enjoy the presentation that they make. And of course, the motorcycles that come through the community. My wife ended up riding on a motorcycle the last time we came through. I looked around the parking lot, I said, "Where's my wife?" And then she didn't want to go on. She did return.
It's nice when they come back.
The 4th of July, the Rolling Thunder's on the 1st of July. On the 4th of July, we're going to be walking in the Barrington City Parade up in Town Main Street, I mean, and walking and riding. Well, we'll be strolling, walking, riding, whatever we can do. We'll be going along with the others from LBS that will be riding in the parade to acknowledge our 50th anniversary of the Lake Barrington Shores. The other item for us, the other item that I'm going to mention, our board is in the discussion phase of talking about expanding our membership to military members in Lake Barrington itself. So we'll see how that goes. There's some legal issues that probably I'm sure that we iron out. That's where we're going. So, Jim?
Just any questions? Yes?
We'd love to promote these activities on our LinkedIn page. If people would like more information, guide them to memorial5k.com.
Yes.
Perfect.
You have this, and I'll be happy to send you some more.
Great. Thank you.
Last year we had 200.
It is always a pleasure. And Jim, we miss you.
Well, I miss you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair would like to recognize Trustee Burke, Chair of our Economic Development Committee, for introduction of our other guest here this evening.
Oh, sure, thanks, President Richardson. We have with us Daniel Weimer, who is the proprietor of DB Menswear over on Route 14 near Domenico's Restaurant. We're all familiar with Daniel. Daniel, if you'd like to come up, and we've asked Daniel to come in tonight. As you all know, he's expressed an interest in potentially pursuing a liquor license as part of his business, and it's something that the board has been contemplating, but before we took any further action, the board had requested that you come in and that we hear more directly from you what your plans are as it relates to how you might utilize a liquor license as part of your business. So, but since you're here in front of us, and it's always good to see our local business owners, before you just dive into the subject matter, just take a minute to update us on DB Menswear. Like, what's going on with DB Menswear? How is it? How are things going? What's the outlook looking like for you?
Well, thanks for having me tonight. It's been great. The community's been great. You know, both Lake Barrington has been just fantastic outreach from the community and surrounding suburbs. So I couldn't be more happy than, you know, when I was here during, COVID, or it was COVID when I started, in the first meeting I was here with you guys and explaining, you know, what my goals were, and I've far exceeded those goals currently, and the one thing on my mind is just how I can kind of expand as a business and really offer more within the same space that I'm operating in right now. And so just more to the point, it's been an excellent opportunity. You guys have been great, you know, with Andy, with everything that you've kind of helped me reached in the short term. And so now moving forward, you know, I've had a couple of events with the Chamber, the Barrington Chamber, and a couple charity of events that, you know, had that license that came with them. And, you know, it really brought a bigger crowd. And that's kind of what my objective is just to get more eyes, host more events, And with that, having a couple cocktails kind of helps get people and draws more people into the space. And ultimately, that's what my goal is to bring more eyes into the shop. And yeah, so that's my intention.
Could you, maybe to help us imagine that or envision that, like, give us an example of what this event would look like just...
Well, they do a lot of these private shopping events at some of the women's boutiques, and so I'm just kind of pulling those ideas of what's successful for them. So I've talked to a lot of the women's shops around, and, they will have these little wine carts or whatever, and they'll do private parties where they donate, in a raffle at all these charity auction events where, donate, or whatever. You win this event, you get a $500, which includes cocktails, and it's a sip and shop kind of thing. So that's kind of what, right now, at the surface level, that I'm looking to do, is offer these opportunities to donate, which I already do donate, to all the local Barrington and other charities in the northwest suburbs, actually. So it's really being able to be kind of a full service and offer that, and without having to kind of find somebody else to bring in to supply the booze, or, and so that's kind of what the drive is.
That's great. As President Richard would say, it's customary for us to go around the dais. So I'm going to steal that and start to my left with Trustee Schalmoser to see if you have any questions or comments for Mr. Weimer.
Thank you for your effort in our community. The alcohol that you would provide, would you sell it to customers, or would you give it away complimentary?
Well, right now, as it stands, from what I've understood, that you can't just give away alcohol, so it would be, selling tickets to an event, or, so that would be in a package deal. So you would kind of be selling that ticket with, well, this gets you, your 1 drink coupon or 2 drink coupons, and that would be it, right? You just follow the rules. Is whatever they tell me I'm allowed to do, that's what I'll do. So it's not my intention to open up a bar, per se. It's about being able to offer it legally, legitimately.
I don't have any questions. I think it's an interesting idea, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment on Trustee Schalmoser's question, because that's been sort of central to the discussion. Right. Central to discussion has been the fact that in the state of Illinois, that it's illegal for a business to give away alcohol under any conditions, so it's prohibited. So that's why you have to come up with a creative way to serve alcohol, make sure the alcohol is being purchased as part of a package or other things. But, and I think that's been an ongoing concern expressed by the board, was, are we creating an environment where every retail seller has a bar, and that when people walk in, they're being offered drinks as part of the shopping experience? And the answer is a definitive no. We're not in the business of, it's the state of Illinois prohibits such action, such behavior.
They don't allow you to give alcohol.
You can't give it away, right? So anything that any business chooses to do, and that's why some businesses have worked through the chamber, because they have unique special license to be able to, cater these events with alcohol, like the wine walk in Barrington is an example of that. So in this case, Daniel's saying, I want to control my own destiny. I'd like to have multiple of these events and not rely on the chamber. So I'd like to do something similar, not put words in your mouth, but that's what's really central to this conversation, is the act of selling alcohol versus giving it away.
I don't really have any questions, but I do know if you get a bunch of girls at a party and you give them wine, or they have wine, they open their pocketbooks. I've done it many times. So, yeah, it's a great idea. I don't know how you get around, I understand you're putting together some type of charity events and things like that, and I think it's a good idea. I would support it. Don't forget. So, yeah.
And Trustee
I have a quick question.
Yes, go ahead, trustee Schaller.
Does this require a special village liquor license? Because obviously it's a different class of license that we would be issuing rather than one for wine and beer and selling wine and beer or doing a bar. I mean, does this require a special with certain limitations as to what is permissible and what isn't?
So I can repeat trustee
repeat the
Schaller's question. He asked if this would require a different village liquor license than what we currently have on the books, and the answer is yes.
Yes, I've created that kind of license for other villages, and basically it would be one where if you're a retail goods establishment, you could qualify for the license. One other advantage, though, of having a license is that you can also, what you can't do now as a retailer, you can't, just as a plain retailer, you can't do tastings. Well, if you're a retailer, you can do tastings, which even though they're limited in quantity, to a quarter of an ounce for spirits and one ounce for wine and 2 ounces for beer, it still is an attractive thing. You can give that much away if you're having a tasting. So that is kind of a little side part. But I think the real question is, if you want the village to create one, the board would need to direct me to prepare that ordinance. I think the real question would be the liquor license fee, the annual license fee. And just to give you some ideas, we have a license fee, that doesn't seem quite right. We have a gas station license fee is $2,000. I'm trying to give some perspective on other license fees, but so I think restaurants are more like in the $500 range. But in any event, yeah. That's something that the board would need to direct me to in terms of the fee you want. But I can prepare the ordinance in any event, and the board can make the decision if it comes before you, so.
Right, and my comment to that would be that, yeah, I think what we would, when the board begins the discussion on this as to whether we support it, when we get into fees, I think we want to look at it relative to the difference between a gas station, a restaurant, and a retailer who's going to have an occasional event, and try to keep it in proportion so that it's not onerous on an owner like yourself to own such a liquor license for 4 events a year or whatever you might be using it for. I'm not committing to anything, I'm just saying to assuage any concern that you might have that it would be the same as a gas station. I think the board would probably come to a little bit different conclusion about fees on that, but.
You do have to get a state license, and those are going to be, as I recall, they're like $600 or $750 per year.
Right, and we don't manage or control that. That's obviously done on their part. So, Kevin, do you have any questions or comments?
No,
you're good.
Addressed it off.
Okay, so I think, Daniel, we appreciate you coming and explaining this. Is it your intent at this point to ask the board to pursue this on your behalf? Is that your goal?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
All right, so we will, I guess at this juncture, we will just take that under advisement and I guess direct staff at some point to start working.
In a perfect world, when would you like to hold your first event that utilizes a license like this?
Well,
as soon as we can.
Exactly.
Okay.
Chair, no rush per se, it's just, I'd like to just do everything by the book.
Summertime is a nice time.
Summertime would be great.
The chair will direct village council to prepare a draft ordinance for the board's discussion and consideration.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Good to see you, thanks.
Thank you. Before we move to agenda item 7, Chair has discovered an error in the proclamation wording under the Jewish American Heritage Month. In the "Now There Be It Resolved" column, or paragraph, I hesitated in reading it because it didn't make sense. So we discovered...
It was cut and paste.
No, as I once said to Lisa, I say to Karen tonight, it'll just come out of your check. Let me ask for an amendment to the proclamation. I'll read the new language, and we will prepare a new proclamation that reflects it for use on the village website and so forth. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the President and the Board of Trustees of the Village of Lake Barrington, Lake County, Illinois, that the Village of Lake Barrington encourages all residents to take the time to celebrate the contributions of Jewish Americans and Jewish American culture and heritage to our community and our country. Chair would like unanimous consent that this language be inserted in lieu thereof, the erroneous language originally provided without objection, so ordered. Thank you. Okay, now we can move to agenda item 7, which is the consent agenda. Chair, I'll yield to the administrator for any comments. These are items we discussed previously in the committee of the whole.
Sure. The first item, the building permit process consultant, it's been discussed for the last few months. We've been talking about hiring a Six Sigma consultant to help us analyze the back-end part of our building permit process. And after a lot of discussions with a lot of different consultants and vendors, staff is recommending Chalmers Street Consulting to develop an improvement plan for our building permit process.
Yeah, I'd like to add to this, just for sake of the record, since these meetings are recorded for the benefit of the public and history. What we discovered was that staff was being significantly stressed by a manual paper-based system, not of her creation. And in a firm desire to give relief, as well as to help the village realize the multiple benefits from the automation of data capture and the digitization of workflows, sound familiar, Trustee Van Ryn? That we would look into a serious effort to automate and digitize the back end of the permit process. The administrator is to be credited with digitizing the front end immediately prior to the launch of the pandemic, but the back end is needlessly burdensome. We have a much better and higher use for Julia's talent and ability than managing an antiquated paper-based manual system. And so I took this as kind of an action item for myself, and utilizing relationships that Trustee Van Ryn and I have through our day jobs, we had some very talented people look at it, and we discovered this thing is a bear and there's no current solution in the market. So in order to really wrestle this to the ground, it occurred to me, and I think probably a lot of you know from your day jobs, what Six Sigma is as a business process. We're going to hire a Six Sigma, and I've got 2 years left, and I am going to get this done. As Scarlett O'Hara once said, as God is my witness. So the purpose of this is to get us started with a certified Six Sigma black belt for the purpose of really figuring out a solution. So I wanted to add that for benefit of the record. And I'll yield back to the administrator.
Okay, great. The second item on the consent agenda is the compensation of your village administrator. This harkens back to the employment agreement that included recommended compensation in the month of May prior to my retirement. The third item is consideration of a resolution regarding closed session minutes. The village is mandated by law to annually review closed session minutes, and you have all had a chance to review those closed session minutes, and the village attorney has reviewed these minutes, and his recommendations are reflected in the resolution.
Chair will take a moment to yield to the village attorney to review for the record on camera what the resolution says and what your recommendations are.
The resolution says, thank you, that these particular installments of village board minutes they're closed session minutes, and so they're being approved tonight, but they're not being released. That's the important part, is they're being improved by board action, because you have to take that board action in public session, but they're not being released to the public at this time.
Questions for council on that? Okay.
And the last item on the consent agenda is the Fidelity Consulting Agreement. We've used Fidelity Consulting since 2008 to perform lobbying services in the state of Illinois for different items, including environmental issues, water quality, grants, et cetera. So the motion is to amend his agreement to extend it for another year, and it does have the usual 60-day cancellation policy in it by either side.
With or without cause?
With or without cause, yes.
Okay, then Chair would like a motion to approve and block agenda items 7A through 7D as stated in the recommended action of the consent agenda. May I have that motion, please?
So moved.
By Trustee Van Ryn, thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
By Trustee Perkins, thank you both. Clerk will please call the roll.
Oh, got it. Took 6 times. Okay, Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Schalmoser?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, thank you. Agenda item 8 is the Treasurer's Report. Mrs. Hirsch.
Good evening. I'll first like to mention that I recently had the pleasure of going through an IMRF compliance audit on the village's behalf. It's the first time the village has ever been undergone an audit, and so I did ask the auditor what would have triggered the audit, and she said nothing. In the past, they had to visit the village or the municipality, whoever, to conduct these audits, and now because of secure emailing and sending documents that way, and we conducted our final closing interview via a Teams meeting. No one had to go anywhere. Now they're talking to all the small employers. So anyways, we passed the flying colors. So we have no suggestions, no problems. But I will say, as the administrator of IMRF, it was a learning experience to know, and I know we're doing certain things, and she re-explained why we do certain things. So it was actually very interesting. And I hope that we don't do that for like another 10 years, but fortunately, she said, if you have an audit with some recommendations, they will come back next year to make sure you follow through on the recommendations. Since you have them, you won't be back next year. I said, perfect. Okay, so on to other bigger things. You have the financial statements before you for the 11 months ended March 31st, 2023. We're almost done with our fiscal year. I will mention that we have not done our year-end accruals on these financial statements. You'll see those next month. For instance, we'll accrue the sales tax rebate and the ARPA funds that have been used and so forth. But, we're sort of a modified cash basis during the year, kind of just do things based on a cash basis. And the very last month, we do all our accruals. So just to keep you aware of that. So you'll see on the flash report, we have total assets of $5,221,000. Our current liabilities are at $1,653,000. Our equity is at $3,569,000. Total revenues for the 11 months are $3,542,000, and our expenses are at $2,814,000, resulting in net income of $728,000. And you'll see at this point last year, we had almost $330,000 in net income. So to do a better comparison, we pull out those larger items. Last year we did have a lot more road work and expenditures on feathering. So when you pull those out, our ordinary, what we'll call regular operation net income and loss is actually very close. This year it's coming up to about $990,000 compared to last year of $1,105,000. We just had one item when we pull out those extraordinary items, below the line there. There was just one item this month that was pulled out to add to the total for the year, and that was a $72,000 expense for the first pay request for the Hillview Hillside project. So that was pulled out as an unusually large item for the comparison purposes. Okay, if you go to page 11 and 12, you'll see we have our actual budget report. You'll see our revenues at 87% actual to budget. Once we recognize the ARPA revenue that's been spent, or expenses that have been spent, that'll jump up. And then on page 12, you'll see our expenditures are only at 69% actual to budget. That will jump up a little bit as well. We've had some road work recently, and we will accrue the sales tax rebate. We still are expecting to be well ahead of budget, as we saw through a couple of months of committee of the whole meetings on the budget. For this year, we actually looked at financial expected actuals for this year, and we still will be well ahead of budget, as we're predicting. So that's all I have for the general fund. Any questions on that? Okay, I'll move to the motor fuel tax fund, and that is on page 13, the balance sheet. You'll see we have net current assets of $162,000. There's been no activity in that fund this month other than the collection of some revenues from the state. And we do not expect to use any of those funds until fiscal year '25. There's nothing in the budget for that fund next year. Page 17, we look at the balance sheet for the water sewer fund. We have net current assets in there almost about $1.8 million. Nothing unusual to mention in there. We will, as mentioned last month, be taking a closer look at our billing revenues versus our expenses in the new calendar year, fiscal year, with our new village administrator. That's what I have on the financial statements. Any questions before I review the warrants? Okay, just a few to mention on warrant A, on the water sewer fund, one for EPS Heating and Air, and that's for $6,603.86, and that's a new ventilator in the chemical feed building. That was not an item that was necessarily budgeted, but it does fit nicely under our maintenance and repair expense under the budget, and there's plenty of room there. And then on warrant B, we have 3 invoices to mention. Apex Window Works, and that's for $2,339.80, and that's just a down payment on the new windows for the community room. And that will be our fiscal year '24. HR Green, they have 2 invoices for payment, $29,436, and that's for engineering related to the 2023 road program. And then a second invoice for $11,286.46, and that's engineering related to the Hillview road project. The rest have been reviewed. They're all there for approved for your payment, but happy to answer any more questions on those. Okay, that's all I have.
You're going to stay?
Yeah, I'm going to stay. Yeah, I'll stay up here.
If there are no questions, the chair would like a motion to approve and block agenda items 8A through 8C as noted above in the treasurer's report. May I have that motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Perkins, second by Burke. Thank you both. Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Schalmoser?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, thank you. Agenda item 8D, the fiscal 2024 appropriation ordinance and financial plan. Chair recognizes the treasurer.
Okay, I'll start with the financial plan because the ordinance is based off the financial plan. So we did meet, we had committee of the whole meetings in March and April and had extensive discussions on both the revenue items and the expense items. The financial plan, which here's the pretty version of it, I'll show the camera, it actually has a review of last year, what we're expecting to end up last year, which is very accurate at this point, and the budget for all 3 funds. And there's a lot of discussion on types of revenue, types of expenses. There's some charts to look at and some pie charts and graphs, which I think are very helpful. I'm happy to answer any questions on that, but just as a quick review, we are budgeting to spend, give me 1 second, I'll get my notes out. We are budgeting a loss in the general fund of $1,152,000. And that will be coming, those added expenditures are mostly on roads, and they'll be coming from our large fund balance we've grown over the past couple of years in the village here. The motor fuel tax fund, we are just budgeting a net revenue of $219,000. That's just strictly revenue coming in from the state, pass-through money for MFT, and no expenses in that fund next year. And then for the water sewer fund, we are budgeting a loss of $325,000, and that's just mostly and that's an accrual loss. There's depreciation expense in there, so it's not a cash loss. It's cash loss is about $225,000, and that is mostly for repair and maintenance items. But there's a large surplus in that fund as well, and that money will be coming from the surplus. Happy to answer any questions on the financial plan. There's a lot of verbiage to read, and we worked hard on it, so.
Before recognizing trustees for purposes of question, just for context, again, for benefit of history and recordation of meeting and public proceedings here, we've had policy for 15 years, longer than 15 years. Oh,
Thank you. We've had a policy for longer than 15 years that we will not hold more of the taxpayers' money than is reasonable to account for rainy days. We have a AA+ bond rating rather than a AAA because we refuse to take more of people's money than is fair and needed. Other units of government have chosen a different route. We have done the right thing, I believe, for our community. We keep a reasonable, prudent reserve, but we will not take more money than we needed because we recognize at its foundation that it is not our money. It is the money of our residents, and they work hard for it. So as a result, in years where we do well and we have a large surplus, we look to rebate in a de facto way to residents, and we have chosen to do that over the years through the acceleration or expansion of road and culvert work by and large. It has been extremely well received by the public. It is a very cost-effective way to provide a de facto tax rebate, and it honors our commitment to not take a nickel more than we absolutely need for purposes of prudence and responsibility. And so this financial plan talks about a deficit of $1 million. What we are doing is taking our balance, which is way above the 7% we keep, down to 70% by accelerating road work, which has been our methodology for providing that de facto tax cut. So when we talk about the deficit, is it a de facto tax cut that recognizes the fact that we don't keep more of the residents' money than we can afford, or rather than is prudent? And I know you know this real well, but for purposes of the record, I feel compelled to just revisit it for purposes of the record. So.
And in the financial plan, we'll note that after we spend the $1.1 million in deficit spending, the fund balance drops to 90%, so still well ahead of our target.
So, Chair will recognize trustees for purposes of questions of the administrator on of the treasurer on the appropriations ordinance and the financial.
I haven't talked about the ordinance yet.
Oh.
But I guess I'll do it, and then we can...
Fair enough. I thank you.
So the financial plan is really the management's internal working document. That's what we work with when we make decisions internally within the village. The appropriation ordinance is basically asking the public for our legal spending authority, and that is based strictly off the budget. We do bump the budget up 20% with the thought that if there's something catastrophic happens or very unusual, we don't need to go to the public each time we have this unusual expense. So the appropriation ordinance is asking for total appropriations of $7,946,965, and that is broken up between our three funds. The total general fund appropriated amount would be $7,183,578. The water sewer fund would be $763,387. Nothing is being appropriated from our motor fuel tax fund because we do not intend to spend from that fund this year. That's all I have.
Thank you.
But we were supposed to open a public hearing. I just thought of that.
I'm sorry?
We needed to open a public hearing.
Yep.
Okay.
Are there questions beforehand? If not, Chair would like a motion, pardon me, to open a public hearing regarding the appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year ending April 30, 2024. May I have a motion, please? By Trustee Van Ryan. May I have a second?
Second.
By Trustee Schallmoser. Thank you both. Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
Trustee Schallmoser?
Yes.
Trustee Burke? Yes. Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, thank you. And you're able to hear?
I can hear fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Should I rediscuss for purposes of the hearing, or?
Chair will ask counsel for opinion.
No, she does not.
Okay. Are there any members of the public in attendance who would like to be sworn in as witnesses? Let the record show there is no member of the public in attendance tonight. So we can move to close, correct?
Correct.
So Chair would now like a motion to close the public hearing regarding the appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year ending April 30, 2024. May I have a motion, please? Trustee Burke, seconded by Trustee Schaller. I did hear you, John.
Thank you.
Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Schallmoser?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, thank you. Chair would like a motion to accept the fiscal year 2024 financial plan, certified statement of revenues, and fiscal policies. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
By Trustee Van Ryn, may I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Schallmoser, thank you both. Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
Trustee Schallmoser?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, thank you. Chair would like a motion to pass ordinance number 2023-0-12, an appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year ending April 30, 2024. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
By Trustee Schaller, seconded by Trustee Perkins. Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Schallmoser?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Hirsch. This is a lot of work, and we very much appreciate the dedication. Okay, agenda item 9 is the administrator's report.
Okay, so you recall that we applied for an ITEP grant for the Featherling Park connection. Unfortunately, the village did not make the cutoff for the ITEP funding for the trail connection between Featherling Park and Grassy Lake Forest Preserve. The cutoff for funding was 75 points, and we had 73 points. So the engineer and I are looking back at the scoring of things to see what things that we might do in a subsequent application to score more points. Some of that might be going ahead with the preliminary engineering. And now, also, there might be some points for, once we get the easement from Schooner Lane to Featherling Park, then it makes it, in essence, a longer trail, because you have all the Barrington Harbor estates connected to that trail. So he's looking at that, and he's going to see like what kind of points that is the potential of. And so we'll know after that. So that's it.
Questions for the administrator? Okay, agenda item number 10, clerk's report. There is none, correct? Thank you. Agenda item 11, reports of the standing committees. 11A, branding and communications. Trustee Van Ryn.
Thank you, President Richardson. One note I would love to call everyone's attention to, if you have not seen it, 6 days ago on LinkedIn, we posted an update on the Flint Creek watershed. And it talks a bit about how we've had support from 2 congressional leaders submitting community project funding requests to the Senate and House Appropriations Committees for use by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to study the Flint Creek watershed. So you can find out all the latest details on LinkedIn, and it's also posted on our village website. Speaking of our village website, we encourage all citizens to sign up for e-news. We are up to 380 subscribers. That's up 1 from last month. And we're up 1 follower on LinkedIn as well, up to 129. So growing slowly but surely, but just a reminder for residents who are interested in the latest news, we have those channels available for you. Thank you so much.
Questions for Trustee Van Ryn? Okay, 11B is in Baker, Economic Development. Trustee Burke.
Thank you. I have a number of quick hitters here to get through. First off, I want to let people know that I sent an email out this week to the 6 local restaurant owners/managers, copied President Richardson on that, And the intent behind it was to kind of serve as a year or two in review as it related to our local restaurants. And it was filled with highlights because I thought each of them should understand what was going on in the broader restaurant community. So the highlights were letting them know that all the restaurants had taken advantage of our $10,000 grant program. All the restaurants survived the pandemic. All the restaurants continue to thrive beyond the pandemic. Shared with them that also about the licensing, the business and liquor licensing fee elimination during that period of time, that we launched the Shop Lake Barrington marketing campaign, both with billboards and on social media. And despite the turn down during 2020, that the nice thing is that we've recovered as our license renewals are back to pre-pandemic levels, and our tax revenue is at 2022 is the highest we'd ever achieved. And then I told them about some of the new businesses that we welcomed over the last few years, like DB Menswear, Domenico Steakhouse, Selection Air Boutique, etc. So, and then with that, just said, hey, our goal is to continue to support you. It's great to see that you're all doing well, that you provide a valuable amenity to our community, and a lot of variation on great places for people to go and to dine. Oh, and I also noted that that the Kelsey Roadhouse was under new ownership, so I put that note in there as well, welcoming them. So when I kind of just started to sit down and write it, it was mostly just to check in, but then I realized we have some new owners, like at Wild Asparagus are new in the last few years, so I just wanted all the restaurant owners to understand the work that the village did in partnership with them to help them survive. I had some really favorable comments back on that already. We mentioned retail sales tax update, and the last update that Peggy gave me was very positive. Through February versus February, we were up about 4% versus a year ago in total retail sales tax revenue. She did pull out that the restaurants are doing quite well. And in fact, when you look at the numbers, if you combine our 6 restaurants and the revenue that they generate, they're quickly becoming probably the second biggest retail sales tax revenue generator in the village, behind internet sales, right? And then gas is always up there. But collectively, these restaurants are turning into significant revenue generation for us.
Given the tax rebate in the back into account for statewide.
Correct. So I think that also serves to point out that the work that we did and the seed money that we planted with them through the grants is being paid back in spades. So that's very positive as well. I mentioned...
That's a great...
Yep.
That's a great story, Therese. That's a great story, that the investments helped keep the restaurants alive, and look at the return we've gotten. Thank you, Andy. I didn't mean to interrupt.
We'll go back together on that and get some facts and details together, because maybe even something just talking about the restaurant industry as a whole, because we have now another restaurant in Domenico's that's doing quite well. So in looking at them as a collective, not only did those who existed, Domenico's wasn't there, survive and now thriving, we've added another, and they all continue to do well. And so there could be a good story in there. We'll talk about that further. I did mention Kelsey Roadhouse as of just a few, well, it was last Tuesday, in fact, a week ago, that the new owners, Paul Maloney and his wife and his partner, Paul, business partner, took possession of the Kelsey Roadhouse. And my wife and I told Chris that we just had to go there for dinner. And we had so much fun, actually, because everybody was there, Paul, and they all came over and we chatted, and they were just tickled pink that we showed up. And we admitted that it had been a while since we'd been there and had dinner. And the best part was, Paul were literally, as we're talking, they were taking down lampshades and lights and dusting everything and putting them back up. They said, we got a lot of work to do. So they didn't just idly stand and chat with us. They were literally both had their aprons on and were cleaning stuff as we were talking to them. He sent me a very nice note, did Paul Maloney. He said they had a very good first night, and they were just really thrilled, and they were just tickled with the reception that they're getting from the village and the reception that they're getting from the loyal customers. So, and he said, come back in 6 weeks and you won't recognize us. There'll be a number of changes that they're going to be putting in place. So they're really gearing up for summer. They're really focusing on the outdoors right now because that's where they're saying that's our bread and butter. So we want to be ready to go for this summer and have a great summer is the goal. So more to come on that, but we're excited for them. We're happy for them that it's worked out, and I think the community's also happy that it's going to work out that way, and we'll continue to embrace them. Related to business licenses, Lisa was kind enough, very timely, to provide me with an update that, you know, as she was doing, as we finished the business license renewal. So the net was, in the last go-around, there was 202 total business licenses applied for. There are 7 new businesses as part of that and 6 businesses that we lost. So we netted 1 new business throughout all that. And then Peggy was quick to come in over the top and say, of the 6 that we lost, only 1 was a relatively small retail revenue generator. So as a loss of those 6, we actually didn't lose any retail sales tax revenue generation. So while we hate to see them go, we're holding our own. And it's nice to know that new businesses are showing up and outpacing the loss of old business. So thank you, Lisa, for that. Very timely. Allowed me to talk about it tonight. And last but certainly not least, thanks to Karen, and let me just pull this up here and make sure I'm speaking to it the right way. Yeah, so Suzanne Coro from the Barrington Area Chamber of Commerce and Karen had been discussing some ways to continue to support the businesses here in the village, and it is sometimes cost prohibitive for many of these businesses to be members of the chamber all by themselves, and Suzanne came up with a proposal that she and Karen discussed, Karen brought to me, about effectively creating a partnership with Lake Barrington, and at a very nominal fee of $1,000 a year, that in effect it allows the Barrington Area Chamber to serve as in supporting our area businesses in ways like online advertising, supporting one event a year, like the vintage shop hop or whatever we want to do in the summer, ribbon cuttings and those sort of things. So a business no longer has to be a direct member of the chamber in order to benefit from some of the chamber's support in all these things like promotions and whatnot. I think it's $1,000 extremely well spent, and I'm excited about it. So Karen, thanks for making that happen. And I'm actually excited to talk about it with our business owners, because what a good story to say, hey, in effect, we've signed you.
Good story.
Oh, good story. We're going to be writing a lot of stories together. But it's a great story to tell also, in at least in talking with our business owners, that in effect, we've come up with a pretty economical solution that we're footing the bill, but it's going to give them access to the Barrington area without them actually having to be a member of that. So I think that's really exciting, and thanks to Karen working with Suzanne on that to come up with a creative solution. And that's it. That's my report.
That's a good report. Any questions for Trustee Burke?
I just have one thing to say to you.
Microphone, Susie.
Sorry. I just wanted to say, I got this, I'm in this countryside babysitting co-op thing, and we have a Facebook page. The other day, someone had posted, the new owners of Kelsey Roadhouse are trying something new. They have a magician coming on Sunday from 4 to 6, and he goes around to the table. He does like a little magic thing, and then he goes around to tables and does magic at the tables for families. It's like family fun type things. And I was like, wow, those people are really rocking it. That's great. I don't know if I should be,
Kind of cool.
plugging them, but that's
okay. No,
really
you should be
but I
plugging
mean,
them.
I just thought that was amazing, and what a fun thing, and what a great thing to, get people out there,
it's very consistent with their message that they want to become a family destination, and that's why we love what they're doing. There were concerns about this outdoor, area, and is it going to become, this crazy, wild concert, place, and the answer is no, because that's not what they desire it to become. Everything they do from the entertainment, which speaks to this, is going to be about pulling in families. And so I'm excited to see what they're getting creative, and even as they're saying, just going in and brightening up, painting, cleaning, just doing things, they're transforming even, what's there as we speak. So I think people, when they give it a shot, are going to be pleasantly surprised, kind of no differently than Chris and I were just really pleasantly surprised. Great service, great food, everything about it is great. And so the more we talk about it, the better. That's what we're here to do and support them. So,
Are they going to have a grand opening?
I don't know that. They haven't spoken to that at any event like that. They may. Right now, it's probably what they call just their. I think they're trying to be relatively seamless at first, and then get their act together before they really start pushing and promoting. They wanted to do some things to the place, but effectively, I think the staff is very much the same. I think the menu has not changed. And I think over time, they'll make some tweaks, but their goal wasn't to go in there and make it unrecognizable. Their goal is to go in, keep the best parts, and then keep adding to that in a way that enhances its appeal more broadly to our community and particularly families. So
I really am thrilled with them, and Lynn and I have started to go up there a lot, and we do a lot of takeout there now. The quality of the food is excellent, but in addition, the variety of the menu is, I think, a real draw. It's astonishing that they can support a menu that broad, and I love the magician idea in bolstering the family friendliness. I mean, I have the ability to make a very nice woman very angry very quickly, but I've had 35 years of practice, so beyond that, my magical powers are limited. I'm thrilled, and Andy, anything we can do to help, whether it's Teresa's work in pressing out messaging and advertising or not, we certainly want to see them succeed.
Great, thanks.
11C is external relations. I am headed tomorrow down to the Community Leaders of America, which is the Republican Mayors Association Spring Conference. As is my practice, the village does not pay for my travel. I take care of that. And I'm presenting on digitizing governmental processes with someone who is a colleague of Teresa's. And I'm going to talk about it from the village's perspective. He'll talk about it from the industry technology perspective. But I've told him I want to be a case study. And the first step will be to talk about the black belt that we're retaining. So I'll report back on that in next month. 11D, Finance, HR, and Administration. In the absence of Trustee Hayes, who is on a well-deserved vacation, is there anything the administrator would like to report or the treasurer would like to report beyond what we've covered already? Okay. 11E, Roads and Infrastructure, Trustee Schalmoser.
Thank you, President Richardson. So we were copied on an email earlier today from Marty McLaughlin, our state representative. He's going to be meeting with the leader of IDOT and asked us if we have any specific requests for him, and Karen Dalton-Lang had mentioned a couple of items to hopefully get some funding for. US 14, Northwest Highway at the McHenry County line, 2 Hart Roads, about 2.8 miles, pavement rehab, shoulders milled, and so on. Also, US 14 Northwest Highway at Cuba Road, the traffic signal and the railroad intersect. So hopefully that will be positive for us. And our road work is in full swing here, and as our treasurer had mentioned, deployed a lot of funds this year, and the roads will be looking beautifully. I also personally inspected Federling Park. Looks like they dug up the gravel trail and getting that prepped for repavement. So that should be a very nice little park once that's done. Thank you.
Questions for Trustee Schalmoser? If not, Public Safety, 11F, Trustee Schaller.
Thank you, President Richardson. Unable to see is Lieutenant Scott Kirk here.
Yeah, everybody turn off your microphones.
John, can you start over?
John, yeah.
For some reason, I don't know why, but it's hard to hear you.
Well, we're actually, John, we're just wondering, your voice is not being amplified very well by the equipment here, so Karen's going to kind of translate as you speak.
I was just wondering if Lieutenant Scott Kirk is there.
No, he is not here this evening.
Okay, all right. But the only other thing that I have is that the fire chief in the Barrington Countryside Fire Protection District, Jim Cryer, they do, when they retire, they have what they call a walkout, and that is scheduled for Monday, May 15th at 5:30 in the afternoon, and then at 6:30 p.m. in the afternoon, they will swear in the new chief, Scott Motisi.
Okay, John, if you want to pause for a moment, I'll translate. That's the walkout for the old chief. It will be on Monday, May 15th at 5:30, and following that will be the installation of the new fire chief.
Other than that, no other report.
And other than that, no other reports. Sorry about the microphone, John. I'm sure it was me. I don't know what I did plug in.
Thank you, John. And 11G, Open Space and Special Events, Trustee Perkins.
Thank you, President Richardson. I will go ahead and add to, or just kind of re-mention what former Trustee Thompson talked about before, the Veterans of LBS Memorial 5K Run/Walk, 8 a.m. on Sunday, May 28th, Memorial Day weekend. And then all of this information will be on the website as well. Then also the Remembrance Day on Monday, the 29th at 11 a.m. And then just to give an update on our summer concerts at Friar Farm, we do have bands for each month there. Starting in June, it'll be the third Thursday from 6:30 to 8:30. June 15th, we have a band called Pipe Dream. June 20th, we have a band called No Filter. And then on July. And then on August 17th, this is just the week before school starts, we have our very own Mark DeMonico coming in to do a little show. So that'll be a very fun one, very family. The kids, I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of kids there, and because they go crazy over Mr. D. So, yeah, they really do. And then we do have the Barn Stomp also in September. We do not have an exact date for that yet, but stay tuned. And all of this information is on the community events page. From the home screen, go to resident services and then community events, and all of this information is listed there. And that is it.
Thank you. Are there questions for Trustee Perkins? There being none, thank you all. We can move to agenda item 12, old business. There is no old business. 13, ordinances. There are none. 14, resolutions. There are none. Agenda item 15, new business. 15A, electrical aggregation agreement, 2023. Chair will recognize the administrator.
Sure. So for the past 3 years, we've been very fortunate with our electrical aggregation program, because when we entered into it 3 years ago, ComEd supply prices were very high, and so we've got a lot of competitive bids. We were allowed to go to green energy, and so we had a very low rate for our residents who stayed in the program, electrical aggregation program. Well, times have changed. Prices are going higher, and right now, ComEd supply prices are almost just equal with what any other private supplier could do. So we solicited bids from companies for both 12 months, 24 months, and 36-month terms. And by industry forecasting, it is expected that energy prices will continue to go up. So one might ask, well, what's the benefit of going into electrical aggregation now when the prices are just about the same? Well, two reasons. One is ComEd can fluctuate up or down. We don't anticipate it fluctuating down too much. There's always that risk, though, right? But in the long term, the forecast is that electrical supply prices will continue to go up. So ComEd already delivers all of our electric, whether you get your electric from ComEd or from another supplier, they deliver everything. So you turn on your switch, it's coming from ComEd, the delivery. So the supply side is what we're looking at for the prices. And so after a lot of discussion, we can still go with an EPA green certified supplier, and their bid came in for 24 months at 7.25 cents per kilowatt hour. Right now, the ComEd rate, they're expecting it to be 7.1%, 7.1 cents rather, starting in June. And so even though this rate is a tenth of a cent higher right now, all of our educated guesses is that it's going to, ComEd rates will continue to go up. They're also not all green energy, it's just standard energy. Yeah. So by entering into this aggregation agreement for 2 years, we will be furthering our brand of a green community, if you will, and we hope to save our residents a lot of money in the long run because the forecast is for supply rates to go up. So we would be recommending that we execute a 2-year EPA Green Energy Option contract with MC Squared and to enter into that agreement with a master supply agreement for that and allow me to do execute the necessary documents.
Are there questions for the administrator? We did discuss this in the committee of the whole, but if not, then Chair would like a motion to allow the village administrator to execute a 2-year EPA Green Energy Option contract with MC Squared and to enter into a master power supply agreement and to authorize the village administrator to execute the necessary documents. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
By Trustee Schallmoser, may I please have a second?
Second.
By Trustee Van Ryn, excuse me. Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Schallmoser?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, thank you. Agenda item 16, second opportunity in the agenda for the public to address the village board. I see no one in attendance for that purpose. There is no need for a closed session. There's no other business, so under agenda item 19, Chair would like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By Burke, second please.
Second.
By Perkins, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.